how do you know if you're actually ready to leave a relationship or not? This is a really important question to ask ourselves because it can be really hard to leave someone that we deeply love. And it can be hard to know whether we need to leave them or not, especially the more we care for them. I've coached individuals who have been caught up in relationships, toxic relationships, bad relationships for years because they didn't trust themselves to know what it is that they needed to have a healthy life and to have a healthy relationship. So in this video, what I want to share with you is I'm just going to share with you some key indicators for you to see or recognize or to be aware of to let you know when it's time to pull the plug on that relationship. I was recently coaching a woman and she spent about 20 minutes complaining about the guy and why it was not the right relationship for her, and she had a lot of great reasons as to why to leave the relationship. And then after the 20 minutes of her talking, she suddenly said, "Jared, tell me, should I leave him?" and I had so much compassion when she asked that of me, because I could see that her mind knew that she needed to leave the relationship, but her heart didn't. And that's really what keeps us in relationships, even when we know we need to leave them. Our mind is giving us all these reasons. Yep, they're not good for us. They're holding us back. It's abusive or it's toxic. They can't show up in the same way that I do. But then their heart really wants it. And that's the danger of those types of relationships. Your heart can really want a person to be the right person. It can really want to have a deep and satisfying relationship, but your mind knows when it's right to leave a relationship or not. A lot of the times, we get told to follow our hearts no matter what, and not to listen to our egoic mind, but there's times to listen to the mind, and then there's other times to listen to the heart. And ironically, when those two deeper intelligences of the mind, or the prefrontal cortex, if you want to get real technical with it, and the heart, or the neurons that run in the heart, yes, we do have neurons in our heart, that's recent findings from neurocardiology. When those two intelligences come together, then we can make an informed, heartfelt, logical decision as to when we should leave a relationship. So how do you know when to leave the actual relationship? Number one, when you've lost all goodwill for that other individual and you feel like they don't have goodwill towards you. We can love individuals deeply. Humans have this great capacity to love and go deep and open up their hearts. However, if your heart isn't being respected or loved or cared for in the way that it needs to be loved or cared for, and you see that this is an ongoing pattern, then it's time to let go of the relationship. And if you have ill will constantly towards the other person, if you find that you don't admire them or respect them, and you seem to not really want to be around them as much anymore, but you miss that feeling of love that you used to have and that deep connection, if that's the case, then it's time to let go of the relationship. And I know that's not easy all the time, because when you really love someone and want the best for a relationship, you want to continue those good feelings. You want to continue to have those good, heartfelt, enjoyable feelings that you did in the beginning of the relationship. But if you continually have ill will and you find yourself not respecting your partner, or you feel like it's just coming to a point where you just have lost all admiration for them and that can't be regained, then it's time to start reassessing the nature of the relationship. Remember, the whole purpose of a partnership is that it makes our life better. And if it's not making our life better, then why be in it? You look at why we form communities, countries, counties, all those partnerships that we create in life is so we can take on the world together and make our existence a little bit more enjoyable and not as hard. And it's the same with your relationship. If your relationship gets to be a drag constantly and you lose respect for that person, you don't feel like you're on a team anymore, and it's been this way for a while, and it doesn't feel salvageable, and there's no more admiration or respect in the relationship, then it's time to start looking either for a new partnership with yourself or a new partnership with another human being, because life is about enjoyment. At least that's what I believe it's about. And if you're not enjoying the relationship, then it might be time to move on to something different. Now, that being said, it really depends on what your goals are for the relationship. Not everyone gets together with another partner to enjoy life. For some individuals, they might merge and come together because they both can create a good business together. I've seen coach individuals and have some friends who their relationship really isn't about it's more about making money and building something together, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just know what your relationships are about and the function of them. Number 2, when the relationship is no longer reciprocal, what makes relationships great is that they're reciprocal. We need reciprocity in our life. For me, if any relationship is either I'm giving too much and they're not giving enough, or I'm giving too much and vice versa, it's not a healthy way to do things. If individuals are giving too much to you and you're not giving enough to them, eventually they'll catch on and they'll be resentful and they won't like you, and that's never good to be on the receiving end. And if you're giving too much to them and they're not giving anything back, well, then you're going to get resentful of them, and that's both ways that just doesn't work. So we want to create relationships that are reciprocal. And if there's not that reciprocity in a relationship, then it might be time to move on to another relationship. Now, that being said, it's really important to recognize here that there will be times in a relationship where you might have to show up more than the other person because maybe they're going through a hard time in their life, maybe they had an injury, maybe they had a sickness or an illness and you need to show up more. That's normal. However, if they're going through a phase where they're sick or they're ill or they're suffering from something and they're not giving back as much to you as you're giving to them, if they're not appreciating the fact that you're showing up more than they are showing up, if they're not appreciating the fact that you're showing up more than they're showing up in the relationship, then that's time to start thinking about letting go of the relationship. You know, there's been times in my life where I've been in relationships and I couldn't show up as much as I wanted as much as I wanted to because I had something else going on, but I let them know that I was very aware of that and that it was only temporary. I showed my appreciation. And that's really important to communicate that, because if you don't, then your partner might grow ill and they might start losing respect for you. They might start thinking that, hey, this relationship isn't reciprocal. And there's going to be times where it might not always be 100% reciprocal, but as long as your partner, or you if you're on the other end, communicates that you understand that's not fully reciprocal, and when you can get back to a place where you can be, then that's a great place to get to. However, if they're not giving in the same amount to you, if there's not that reciprocity and they're not appreciative for that lack of imbalance in reciprocity, then that's time to reevaluate the relationship and whether you want to continue a connection with that person. And finally, number 3, when you've lost all sense of safety and fun. Relationships need to be safe space. That's what relationships are really great for. They also need to be fun. At least that's how I see them. When we feel safe, we can allow all the stuff, the shadow, all the messiness, the confusion or chaos of life can come to the surface, and we feel like we have a safe space to come back to rest and recharge. Also, relationships can bring out those fun aspects, those fun parts of us, the parts that are really enjoyable, that are exciting, that make life worth living. If that space disappears, and there might be times, maybe you have a child or maybe your partner's going through a sickness or an illness, there might be times where that's not always the case, and that's a part of life. But if you're finding that the relationship starts to become more burdensome, then it might be a time to reevaluate. If it becomes a burdensome, if it becomes a burden on a daily basis over and over and over again, and it continues this way for months or years, then it might be time to reevaluate the relationship. I don't know about you, but for me, I always find that if my relationships aren't fun, if they're not exciting, if they're not enjoyable, if they don't feel safe, if they're not allowing me to expand or grow in new ways, then I don't really like it. I don't stick around for too long. So it's important to really understand what it is that you want out of a relationship. How do you want your relationship to function? If your relationship isn't allowing you to feel recharged and rested and excited about life and about what you're doing, then those are really key indicators as to some next actions you should take to step out of that relationship. That's all I got for this time, you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Check out the description box below, as I got some resources there. Also, I only have about 3 days left in the relationship series, and so if you want all the live coaching sessions from that, the interviews from that, and all the material that we've created from that, feel free to sign up on the link below. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. I wish you all a wonderful week. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and if you found a lot of value in this, please share it if that feels right for you. That's all I got for this time. I wish you all the best. See you soon.